Alrighty gamers, how's it going? Daybreaker Rein here, coming at you through your video scope with just another gaming rant. And it's been a minute since I've done one of these videos, but there's a reason for this particular video. As the title suggests, I'm going to be talking about Castlevania Season 4, the Castlevania Netflix Anime Adaptation. And oh boy, I've got a lot to say about this. So I had originally planned to make a video in regards to Season 3, but Season 3 left a very, very bitter taste in my mouth. There was a lot of issues that I had with it. Mainly, the pacing was very sporadic. I hated how each episode felt the need to have to focus on so many characters in one episode, and things just kind of went all over the place. I wasn't really interested in some of the new characters that were introduced. I wasn't really invested in what a lot was going on with most of the characters. And overall, I just did not enjoy it. I just didn't like the content. And before anybody wants to point the finger, I know about the more quote unquote controversial scenes in Season 3, and that wasn't one of the reasons I disliked it. The scene in question with Alucard and the two twin characters, this is something that I've even gone on record with multiple people, and there are people who can attest to me talking about this, that Alucard's sexuality has never been explicitly stated in any of the given media that we have of the Castlevania franchise. Even in the instance of Alucard and Maria developing feelings for Alucard, it's never really been given a solid stance in terms of if Alucard ever really reciprocated the feelings that Maria had for him. And there is extended material that takes place after Symphony of the Night in the form of audio dramas in the hurdles that Alucard is going through trying to adjust to being a quote-unquote normal member of human society. And really, even in that audio drama, there really isn't any sort of development in terms of Alucard explicitly stating, any sort of love or affection for Maria. So I wasn't fond of the scene. I felt it was very Games of Thrones-esque, because it's like, oh, we've got the Netflix go-ahead for another season, so we're going to add more risque content. I really felt that was more it than anything. I wasn't opposed to the idea of Alucard potentially being a pansexual or a bisexual, considering, again, that has never been explicitly stated in the source material. There's nothing of the sort. So I've made my point with that. There are people who can attest to me making that point, because I know I'm sure some people did have negative attitudes towards that specific scene, and I understand why, but my reasons were just because I felt it was unnecessary, for lack of a better term. But that all being said, Season 4, I would honestly say Season 4 does more egregious shit, in my opinion, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit more on the offensive side of my vocabulary, because there are some things in Season 4 that are just fucking trash, for lack of a better term. And I can best describe Season 4 and Season 3 as just fanfiction. This was if somebody had dived into the depths of the internet and found somebody taking the Castlevania characters, inserting their own characters, and just fucking rolling with it and making up whatever they fucking wanted to make up. For starters, we still don't get Grant, which I I still really don't understand why they omitted him. I've never really understood that to begin with. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because in the source material, Grant was just as much of a part of the defeat of Dracula in Trevor's time as Sypha and Alucard were. Maybe they thought it would be too much to add a potential other character. Maybe they thought it would be better if they just had Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard as a trio instead of adding a fourth wheel, if you will, with Grant. I'm not really sure, but Grant never shows up. What we do get, and what some people have speculated as quote-unquote Grant's replacement, is a completely original character named Greta, who ends up sort of having some sort of relationship built with Alucard, which, again, I'm not necessarily against the idea that Alucard might have at some point had some sort of love interest. Like, it's very, very possible. And in fact, in the original source material before the game was retconned, the theory surrounding Castlevania Legends is that Sonia Belmont has a relationship with Alucard and has his child. So it's very possible that Alucard could, in theory, have had some sort of meaningful relationship with somebody in the source material stuff. Again, Castlevania Legends has been retconned from the timeline. It's not a part of the official timeline anymore. So any material in that specific game is completely irrelevant. I'm just using it as a point to say, hey, this is a potential thing. And Greta necessarily wasn't a bad character. I could definitely see that some people probably wouldn't like the way that she talks down to Alucard. She is a little bit overpowered. You don't actually ever see her get really injured at all during any of the fight scenes, which was just really, really strange. But regardless of that, fine for what it was. So, probably my biggest issues. Well, let's start with the positives of season 4. Ton of action, just right from the fucking get-go. There's just action galore, and that it was definitely needed, because season 3 was a fucking slog. Like, there's a lot of just nothing happening in season 3 in terms of like fighting, in terms of there being stakes, in terms of whatever the case may be. And season 4 just starts right out the gate with it, which is deserved. It was well needed. I'm glad that they went that direction, and I'm glad that we got to see the characters fight a lot more. Specifically seeing the stuff that Alucard can do, which was really, really cool. I enjoyed that aspect a lot. So that was great. Pacing is way better than season 3. I liked that the narratives were more focused. They didn't seem like they were jumping all over the place in every episode. It seems like large portions of time in the episode were dedicated to specific characters, and that was what was needed. Like, I'd rather have episodes dedicated to just focusing on specific characters rather than every single episode jumping between like 4 to 5 different groups of characters, because that's just not how things should go. And granted, I understand that this is a relatively short anime in terms of its episode length, so I understand that there is information and things of that nature that have to be said and gotten out, but thankfully it felt way more concise. It didn't feel as sluggish. Time just flew. Like, it felt like me and my buddy Xanthan got through season 4 relatively quickly, even though it was like 4 or 5 hours in full length. So it's like, yeah. So I definitely give them kudos for the pacing. They definitely fixed that. Some of the, like, a lot of the visuals were nice. And yeah, I like it's really sad. Like I'm just not really finding more to really compliment them on. Um, I guess the voice acting was stellar. All the voice actors who they chose to play the characters did phenomenal work. Like it's top quality voice acting. They really bring life to the characters, and honestly, I would love if there's ever a time where they potentially maybe make another Castlevania game. I would love to see some of these actors potentially voice characters, maybe even get the if Alucard's in it for whatever reason, definitely have the voice actor who played Alucard reprise his role in any future games. That would be super super nice. Um, so let's go ahead and just kind of talk about the negatives. The things that I didn't like, and uh, I'll probably say something about spoilers in like the intro or something. Maybe do a little segment before, but yeah, there will be spoilers because I'm gonna spoil the fuck out of this bitch. Because yeah, I have a lot of shit to say. Um, First off, the shit with Hector, Lenore, and Isaac was, it just completely fucking like turned on its head. Like the things that were established in season 3, like it's like the characters did like a complete fucking 360. Like just completely their motivations, the way that they are and the way that they are acting and portrayed, like it's completely fucking different from what was established at the end of season 3. The character motivations completely changed. Like Lenore is not the manipulative bitch that she was in season 3. Like I don't know if this was some way to try to like humanize her or try to make up for the fact that maybe everything in season 3 made people uncomfortable or something like that. I don't know. Why people enjoy this character is beyond the fuck out of me. I understand that she's waifu tier, she's pretty, she makes good for cosplay. I get that aspect, but character wise, I don't understand why people like that character. Like did they just like the male domination sort of pet play bullshit she was doing to Hector? Like, is that the shit that they liked? I really don't know. Leave a comment. Tell me what you liked about Lenore, because I never got behind her character. Like even in this season, I like they try to like paint her as some sort of like, they try to either humanize her or like get the crowd to sympathize with her, and I just couldn't. I didn't care. I didn't care what happened to her. So when she freaking self-fries herself at the end, no tears were shed. Like I was like, all right, that's a really weird way to just write this character out, but okay. Hector, man, they have done you so dirty in this fucking anime. First, they made you, for 2 whole seasons, you were just the bitch for fucking Carmilla and for her sisters, and it's like, I don't understand why they did that. Did they just like see the cover of Curse of Darkness and like do no further research? Hector, for lack of a better term, is a badass in Curse of Darkness. Like he's a guy who's on a mission. He's got issues with Isaac, and it's like they completely just omitted all of that shit. Like fucking all of it. And this weird, I feel guilty, so I'm going to help in the resurrection of Dracula, even though I won't be there to see what happens in terms of Dracula's supposed resurrection. It's just like, what the fuck? Like, what? I'm convinced. I'm convinced they didn't fucking play Curse of Darkness, because that's not Hector. That's not Hector. He looks like Hector, but that wasn't fucking Hector at all. That just was not Hector. Like, and to completely go from like where he has been manipulated, and now he's just like because like I think one of the last things he says in season 3 is like, my life is ruined. Like he was mentally broken at that point, and he showed no signs of being that way in season 4 at all. Like, I guess a little exposition of what happened in, like, because I know that there was like a 6-week time gap between the end of season 3 and the beginning of season 4, but it's like a little bit more exposition of why all of a sudden he's suddenly not a crippled fucking like a mentally destroyed mess because of being manipulated and being the lapdog of just anybody and everybody who decides to use him. Like, I don't get it. And this weird, like, bullshit where obviously they tried to paint it like he had some sort of feelings for Lenore, and then he just lets her kill herself. Like, I don't fucking know. Hector, they did you dirty, man. They did you fucking dirty. I recommend to anybody listening to this, go fucking play Curse of Darkness. Like, really? Like, if you want the true Hector, go fucking play Curse of Darkness. It's a fucking night and day difference. And let's get into Isaac. And I say this because in season 3, Isaac runs into a woman who mentions and implies that she has the same powers as Isaac. She is a Devil Forge Master. Okay, I can believe that there were other Devil Forge Masters. So why in the fuck did they name the character Isaac? Again, in Curse of Darkness, Isaac is a completely different character, and I'm not even just talking about the obvious of their skin color being different. They're completely separate fucking characters. Like, hands down, they're completely fucking different. Like, the Isaac in Curse of Darkness is committed to the idea of bringing Dracula back. He's pissed off. He's pissed off that Hector took off. He kills Hector's wife in order to coax Hector out of hiding away and not being a Devil Forge Master anymore, to where Hector starts Devil Forging again. It's like, he's a completely fucking different character in Curse of Darkness than he is in the anime. So it almost kind of begs the question, because, you know, to be perfectly honest, this is mainly just my gripe. Isaac shouldn't have been named Isaac. He should have just been a new character. Just a brand new character with no affiliation, no ties to what people expect of a character named Isaac from the source material. Because they're just two completely separate characters. And again, here is a big issue I have with this entire season with Isaac, is that what they were building up for in season 3, like, Isaac's story in season 3 was like the most interesting thing that happened in season 3. Like, I cared more about what Isaac was doing than what Trevor and Sypha were doing, what Alucard was going through, and what Hector was going through with Lenore and all the vampire chicks. Like, Isaac had me interested. But again, he just completely 360s. He suddenly changes his mind. He's like, I don't want to kill Hector anymore. And I want Dracula to rest. I don't want to bring Dracula back. I'm not angry anymore about the fact that I was Dracula's right-hand Devil Forge Master, you know, and that he, you know, saved me and sacrificed himself. You know, I'm not mad about this anymore. I'm going to meet up with Hector, and now my issue is with Carmilla. And so I'm going to kill Carmilla because Hector was working towards resurrecting Dracula. So all is forgiven? Like, it was so strange, because his entire motivation... Now, granted, I'm not saying that characters can't have introspective and, like, can't suddenly want to do something different, but what in the fuck, in that 6-week time period, did Isaac, like, what did Isaac, like, did he just have nothing else better to do, and so he started just really mulling over his aspirations and his goals, and was like, I'm just not gonna do this anymore and I'm just gonna live for me. Okay. Again, complete role reversal. Like, now it's Hector who wants to bring back Dracula, not Isaac. But then Isaac's like, Hector, you shouldn't do that. Let Dracula rest and let's just live for ourselves and live for what we want, what we truly want. It's mind-numbing. It was mind-numbing. It was like, okay, you had me interested in this character, and then you just completely change every freaking motivation that he has. Like, I just, again, like, I'm not against the idea of characters having introspective or having a change of heart. Like, that happens in anime all the time. It's a trope. You know, you have an antagonist character who sees the error of their ways or something like that, or they get their shit kicked in by the main character and are like, you know what? I'm a good guy now. Like, it happens. It happens in a lot of good anime. Like, off the top of my head, I can think of, like, Yu Yu Hakusho, in a way. I had characters that were bad guys who got their shit kicked in by Yusuke and were like, oh shit, I better turn this shit around. So I'm a good guy now. Or I have, you've beaten my ass so hard, I respect you, so therefore I'm gonna leave you the fuck alone, you know, sort of thing. So, like, that's not new. It's just, it was really unexpected and it felt forced. It felt like if maybe they had more time to do more with the show, like, they could have done something different with that. Trevor and Sypha's story was fine, but the plot convenience of them being able to just go back to Dracula's castle at the end to show up for the final battle, like, again, a little trope. And what the fuck was up with that dagger? Like, it was shoehorned in. There was like an explanation at the very last episode that Trevor makes, but it doesn't explain shit. Now, I don't know how many people listening to this are Castlevania connoisseurs like myself, but in the source material, there's no fucking dagger that's like that. There's no magical MacGuffin fucking dagger that is the death killer. Like, there's nothing like that in the games at all. Like, the only games I can't comment on are the Lords of Shadow ones because I tried to play those and I hated them. So if there's something like that in the freaking Lords of Shadow games, then maybe. But, like, what the fuck are they doing adding in something from a completely separate franchise? Because the Lords of Shadow games are their own fucking thing, much like DMC is its own fucking thing. So there's no magic MacGuffin dagger that's like this super OP death killer. Like, no Belmont, no anybody in the Castlevania franchise has ever needed a magical MacGuffin to fight Death. Like, Death is literally a boss in pretty much every fucking game that I can think of, and literally just their own wits and whatever equipment they have on them is enough to kill Death. So I don't understand why Death needed a magic MacGuffin item to freaking kill him. That makes absolutely fucking no sense. Speaking of Death, and let's get into talking about Saint Germain. Saint Germain's story should have ended in the 3rd season. I really fucking hate that one of the integral parts of Curse of Darkness, where Hector is led astray by a Death disguising as a monk, I hate that they gave that shit to Saint Germain. I really fucking do. Like, did they feel like, again, Saint Germain is not a huge portion of Curse of Darkness, but why did they feel the need that they needed to give what happens with Hector in the game to a completely other fucking character? That doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And again, like, Saint Germain's weird, oh, now, like, I know he was being manipulated, but, like, oh, I'm gonna suddenly bring back Dracula and make this homunculus fucking abomination character thing that combines freaking Lisa and Vlad together to go see my girlfriend. Like, it was just, I just, again, his story should have just been wrapped up with season 3. That was fine. That was a fine little cameo. Have Saint Germain show up, and his story could have concluded with that, where he goes through the portal, he meets back up with his lady, and you know, whatever. Like, this whole contrived, oh, she ended up in another part of the infinite corridor suddenly. Like, he saw her in the like, it's dumb. It's dumb, for lack of a fucking better term. It's fucking dumb, and I'm sorry. Like, it didn't make any fucking sense. And top that off, you have Death, who shows up for a very limited amount of time, becomes the big bad of the final episode, and like is like cussing like a sailor, saying that he's gonna fucking eat Trevor's soul and shit it out in front of Sypha. Like, that was unneeded. Like, I think Death should have been far more what's the word I'm looking for, like far more reserved. Like, it's fucking Death. Like, I don't understand why they felt the need to have him like cuss, because Dracula never cussed. So it was just really, really odd to hear that. Like, I liked Death's overall design. I thought he looked cool. He looked menacing. But yeah, for him to be the big bad and then to just be killed by a magical MacGuffin dagger that's never fucking explained, was just really fucking weird. Like, again, every single person who has fought Death in the source material has not needed a special weapon or anything like that to fight him. They literally can fight him with whatever they have on them at the time. So I just don't understand that. It was just a very weirdly non-explained thing. Like, I wish it could have been explained more. Maybe there might be some interviews with the creators somewhere down the line that explain that shit, or where they got it from. I don't know. Alucard. Most of Alucard stuff to me was fine. I liked seeing him fight. I liked that he had his shield, which was really freaking cool. I liked that his outfit was more reminiscent and looked more like his traditional outfit. It was cool seeing him do all the different moves, him turning into bat form, him turning into wolf form again, you know, all the iconic stuff, him doing the blue flame stuff with his sword. It was all fine, in my opinion. I was weirded out again by his, like, relationship that he has with Greta. Like, obviously, like, it's never implicitly stated that they have some sort of romantic relationship with each other, but it's definitely implied that something is developing there. I'm not saying that Alucard can't have that. Honestly, I'd like him to have that, but it's just a really weird thing, because at the end of season 3, they make it seem like Alucard, in his despair, is ending up like he's going to become the new Dracula, like that he's going to follow in his father's footsteps, and like they just completely ignore that plot. Like, it just completely fucking disappears, aside from the fact that, oh, he has the corpses of the two that freaking, you know, tried to kill him out on stakes out in the front of the freaking castle. And then he added a couple more, and that was pretty much it. And then, like, he just kind of falls back into being, you know, a good protagonist, basically, you know, and becomes a hero or whatever. I was kind of weirded out by the idea of them wanting to set up a village around his fucking castle. Around Dracula's castle. Again, source material stuff says Dracula doesn't necessarily need the same castle, because his castle changes every time he comes back. So I just like, obviously that's thinking too far ahead, but it's just like, okay, so what are they gonna do if, like, you know, if they're gonna end up doing more, like if there's gonna be another series or whatever. And that leads me to the end. Oh boy. Dracula and Lisa were revived. And are alive, and Dracula's not a bad guy anymore, and he's like, I've got my wife, so I'm gonna go fuck off to the countryside, and we're just gonna live happily ever after. What the actual fuck? Seriously, creators, did you not fucking play a single goddamn Castlevania game at all? At what point? At what fucking point did Dracula and Lisa ever revive simultaneously together and just fuck off to the countryside to go live happily ever after? That never fucking happens. That never fucking happens. In fact, every time Dracula revives, he gets his shit kicked in and gets sent right back to fucking hell. Until the point in the Demon Castle Wars where he gets destroyed indefinitely and ends up freaking being reincarnated through Soma Cruz. Because Soma Cruz takes on the lineage of being the next Dracula. So, at what point did the creators think that that would be an okay ending? Like, do you want me to be happy? Do you, like, Dracula set in motion literally a bunch of shit. And you just want to tell me that Lisa's just gonna just, oh, it's okay, honey. We're together again. That's fine. And on top of that, why the fuck was Lisa in hell? Again, source material. Lisa was a good person. Was just a nice person who was wrongfully accused of witchcraft and burned at the fucking stake. Why would she be in hell? Because she was married to Dracula, who's a vampire? Because she did bad things? Her whole mission in life was to help people and to show Dracula that humans are not awful. Like, that was the message she wanted to give along to Dracula that she never got to. Like, Alucard had to fucking deliver that shit. So, it's like, if that was her goal, like, shouldn't she be in heaven? Like, I don't know. I guess it's up to interpretation, but seriously, it's like, it never struck me as Lisa deserved to go to hell for anything. Unless you're just trying to paint the image that God's a freaking dickhead in, the Castlevania lore or whatever like that, and that God saw nothing redeeming of Lisa or didn't think that she deserved a spot in heaven because even though she was doing things to help people, like, I don't know. I don't know if it was her adaptation of science, or whatever the case may be. It really struck me as odd that in the source material, Dracula never meets Lisa again. Because he always goes to hell. So you assume her soul is in heaven, is in eternal paradise. So why on earth she wasn't in hell? But I'm still pissed. That entire ending shouldn't exist. I didn't need to know that Dracula and Lisa came back to life and are going to go fuck off to the countryside and live happily ever after. I didn't need to know that. I didn't need to know that at all. I could have done well enough without knowing that. It should have just ended with the happily ever after, Cypher's having a kid, Trevor's alive, Alucard is happy, possibly has his own lady, and they're gonna live in a village around Dracula's castle and, whatever, and teach kids and teach, the people that the past is wrong, and teaching them what really happened, and so history doesn't repeat itself. Because with that ending, okay, so what would Dracula's motivation be if they were to end up doing any other adaptation of any other story? what would Dracula's motivation be? That Lisa gets killed again, and so he spurgs out again? That Lisa dies of old age, and that in his, you know, in his despair or whatever thing, decides to fuck with the world again? You know, like, what are they gonna do? Whatever they're gonna do, if they intended to do anything, like, it's not gonna make any fucking sense. You have made it to where his motivations are not gonna be the same for wanting to fuck on humanity, because the thing that he was pissed off about is now back with him, and now he can live out the rest of her life or his life or whatever the case may be in peace. So, all in all, I just, for lack of a better term, the only way I can describe this shit, it is over-glorified fan fiction. This is the creators being like, alright, we got the IP rights to Castlevania. We're going to give fans 2 seasons of something relevant to the games, and then we're just going to do whatever the fuck we want. I didn't even talk about freaking Carmela's other sisters. Holy shit. Yeah, that's a fucking thing. That was irrelevant. It was almost like those characters could have just not fucking existed. Literally, it was like they had no bearing on the overall plot. They were there just to carry out Carmela's stuff. They went and did some of Carmela's stuff. The one whose name I always forget, the big lady, she dressed up in Artorias armor and fucking spurred out like Artorias when he freaking got corrupted by Manus. And yeah, like, they show up to the castle, see it got fucked on, see that Carmela got killed, and are like, nah, it'll be fine, and just take off. Like, okay? Characters that completely could have just not been there. Like, they had no bearing on fucking literally anything. Like, again, you know, I am not against the idea of adding new characters or giving life to this universe by adding characters, but it's like, every new character you just don't really give a shit about. The only one that's even remotely relevant is Isaac. And yes, I'm going to call him a new character because he's not the fucking same. He's a completely different Isaac. Like, that's just facts. Like, motivations and everything are just completely fucking different. So, yeah. I mean, that's all I can say. That is literally all I can say about it. It's just, it's over-glorified fan fiction. Either they blew their load too early and decided to wrap up the shit with Dracula, and like Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha fighting Dracula in season 2, and we're like, well, shit, we didn't think we were gonna get signed off for, you know, 2 other seasons, so now we got to make shit up. Or it was literally a case of they just got the IP rights so they could tell a story that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to tell if they didn't have an IP attached to it that they could chill out the story with. Because like I don't want to make accusations or anything like that, but like, a lot of the characters, again, a lot of these new characters that are relevant just feel like fucking self-inserts. Are just like, oh, we need, you know, I've got a draft of some fan fiction, and here's this character, or here's this old D&D character I used to play, or I written up and I never did anything with, so let's just throw them into Castlevania. Like, I wanted this to be good. Like, genuinely, I didn't want this to fucking be bad. I didn't want the Castlevania anime to be at all horrible. And yes, I liked season 1. I liked season 2. I thought that, honestly, if that had been it, I would have been fucking cool with that. Totally. Because they could have gone off of the ending of season 2, and more than capable of going off of that and doing one of the other games, you know, or whatever. But with the way that they ended the anime, it feels like they really can't do anything else with it. And it sucks because, again, you know, I am that guy who has wanted to see Castlevania come back to the mainstream. I have wanted to see Castlevania become something that people talk about again. And yeah, it's gotten people talking about the anime, but I think a lot of the people who've watched the anime have no fucking clue what any of the games are like, what any of the story was like. And that's sad. Because they're going to go fucking play the games that some of these characters are from and be totally blown away that everything is fucking different. Oh yeah, Trevor's not this guy who just says fuck a lot and says weird shit and cusses, and Alucard's not always a mopey bitch, and Sypha is not this overpowered fucking character, and all this other shit, and that Greta doesn't exist, and that this other, I forget her other name, the girl that died, doesn't exist, and that these other vampires don't fucking exist, and that Dracula never fucking comes back to live with Lisa. Lisa stays dead for the entirety of the series, and you know, just like there's just a bunch of shit that, like, I would hope somebody who watched the anime and got into the series, that they would understand where I'm coming from. If they actually seriously sat down and play the games, that they would be a little bit more peeved that this is what the anime ended up being. And I feel bad because I've been hearing, I don't know 100% if it's confirmed. Please leave a comment if you feel like it and tell me if this is the case. But I've heard that these developers, you know, these creators who have done the Castlevania anime want to adapt Devil May Cry next. And I'm here to tell you, Devil May Cry fans, I feel fucking sorry for you. From a Konami Castlevania fan reaching out across the pond to the Capcom DMC fans, I feel sorry for you. Because if you expect that this anime is just gonna freaking be the best fucking thing that's for Devil May Cry, it's gonna end up like DMC. They're gonna do some shit that just completely goes against everything that's fucking been established in the source material. You know, and I know that the argument could be made, well, they have to change things because, you know, they can't just repeat the same story. But it's like, okay, but there's a point. Like, you can hit the story beats and then sort of add in filler, but to just completely just ignore the material that's out there and just take that, throw it in the fucking bin, reach into your fucking desk drawer that has all your freaking fan fictions that you wrote when you were 15 and pull those out and start cycling through them and be like, you know what, that actually sounds good, let's animate that. Like, that's what it fucking feels like. And this is coming from someone who wrote fucking fan fiction. Not necessarily Castlevania fan fiction, but I used to write a ton of fucking fan fiction. And let me tell you, there was shit that I just, like, it would boggle your mind why I even fucking crossed over shit. I fucking added characters from animes and video games in the same world and try to interconnect them, add it in, like all this shit. That's what fan fiction is. That's what it is. You know, and some of it, yeah, it's a fun read. Some of it's a fun read. You know, but it's that kind of stuff. Like, you never in your wildest dreams think that something you write as a teenager or something like that, or you get really invested in a specific, you know, anime or video game, and you're like, man, I really would like to write about this character's perspective or have my own character in that universe, and they go off and have their own adventure or whatever. Like, you never expect, like, that stuff in your head would show up on, like, an actual TV screen, because that's what it fucking feels like with season 3 and 4. So anyway, I've ranted long enough, and I hope this filled your ear holes with a proper rant, just like as the name implies, just another gaming rant. So bottom line, my verdict is season 1 and 2 of the Castlevania anime are just fine. If you watch anything, watch those. I would have liked to know more about some of the characters in season 2, because they completely they introduce all these vampires who don't have names or talk or do anything. There's one, he gets murked, whatever, but you know, I would have liked to actually get to know more about those particular vampires. You know, there are aspects of the series that it's like, okay, that's a step in the right direction, but a lot of it, especially in season 3 and 4, just kind of completely fucking goes off the rails, and it's just like, we're just gonna do whatever the fuck we want at this point. I probably won't watch a continuation, and if I do, it'll probably just piss me off. So expect that rant if that ever comes. Again, if they end up making Devil May Cry into an adaptation, I feel you guys. I feel you Devil May Cry fans out there. Like, I'm not super attached to Devil May Cry. I like the series. I like the characters. So I have that notion enough to know it's like, if they fucking like dunk on those characters like DMC did, like, you know, yeah, like I totally feel you. I will feel your pain, and I will join you in freaking feeling that pain. So before I keep prattling on, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I appreciate it. I hope that I can find some interesting gameplay that's good enough to put up for this video. I have intentions of what I'm gonna freaking put, but that, you know, that's neither here nor there. So yeah, hope you guys stick around. If you like what you heard, you know, I would love you to stick around. I've got a bunch of these freaking videos. Some of them are good, some of them probably not so good. And I've got a few more of these coming on the way, so hope you stick around for that. And before I keep prattling on for another 45 minutes, let's have the outro take us out.
Alrighty gamers, thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, please feel free to rate, comment, or subscribe. And if you want to check out any more of my content, please feel free to follow the links on the screen or check out any of the links in the description below. And as always gamers, this has been Daybreaker Rein, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take it easy everybody.